Oh, I think I forgot to put the airplane mode on. Okay, let me just this is the third video today that I made. Today's date, all right? August 31st of 2018. It was interesting for me to run into Gabriel. I'm not sure how much I said on the other videos, but I remember when Gabriel was like a 5-year-old kid running around in the little church meetings I did in Kingsville we started the ministry in 1987, and I used to go up to the county jails and do Bible studies. And I was still at the fire department all that time. And sometimes over the years, even I'd go on duty, and the shift that was on before me, the guys, when they got out of the county jail, they'd look for me at the firehouse because they knew I was a firefighter. And one of my friends would kid me, say, "John, your convict buddies came looking for you." And I'd say, "Oh, who was it? Did they leave a name?" As sort of as a joke. But Gabriel's father, a lot of cops are in Code 3 right now. But Gabriel's father was Elias Alvarado. And he was in the early group of guys I started reaching out to. And I was young, in my 20s, and really got into the Lord. And I knew, like, reaching out to the guys on the street, that's where I liked doing ministry. But a lot of those guys were heroin addicts. A lot of them had died, including Gabriel's father. But Elias, out of that group, he did the best. Eventually became a pastor. That's why when you heard me say, "Elias, help me," and Gabriel was saying that he did it all, that's when he became his own pastor at the Victory Outreach in Kingsville, Texas. And then I preached at the Victory Outreach, and Elias, he used to help me with the singing. He was a song leader. Gabriel was crying today. He sang some good Christian songs. He sang some, and he showed me some that he did. Now, I didn't know all of Gabriel's history over all these years, because sadly one night we had a call at the firehouse, somebody, emergency call. It was Elias Alvarado, my good friend. And I remember seeing him. Of course, we responded, the ambulance and fire truck. And he had a brain aneurysm, and he died. Now, all of his younger family, I forgot that he had 2 more sons younger than Gabriel, Joshua and Danny. And all of that family over the years, I'd come up to Corpus Christi, and I visited some of them over the years, and I even visited Gabriel's mom a few times. Her name is Janie, and Bishop and all. But when he walked up to me today, he was just asking about the motorcycle, and I wouldn't recognize him. And then he asked my name. And so it was an experience. But before I left him just a few minutes ago, I prayed, what would his dad want me to share with him? So I called him aside. We were just hanging out all day. He's fishing with his girlfriend under the turnaround there. And he showed me some of the videos when he was in Austin, Texas. He was a successful car salesman. He had the videos of him like doing the commercials, and he was dedicated to the Lord. Then he had problems, and he's he's basically homeless. And a lot of people that are homeless, they do things to make money, okay? But then I called him aside and I said, "Gabriel, this is what I think your dad would have me to tell you." I said, "You're real gifted." I said, "I think you can make it in Corpus Christi as a car salesman," because he seemed to be very successful in Austin. And we don't have a lot of industry here, to be honest with you. But that's that's a big one here, all right? We are more of a tourism economy, all right? And car sales do good here. I said, and plus you got to get back with the Lord. I said, that's the main thing. I said, this encounter today, for you to have run into me and recognized me, I would have never recognized you. I said, that's really the next step for you. So I wanted to end it with that. It was a little interesting day. I have these types of experiences a lot of times with a lot of my friends, and I don't always catch them all. So today you just saw a little bit, because I hesitated to make too many. I did so many videos. So you'll see this in a little bit. You'll see those three. Tonight you'll see I'll post a next text of the book of Acts. And I guess, this is not a teaching video, out-debated. I could have taught with this, along with this, but I didn't. There's some scriptures I thought I could teach on. There's a lot of news going on. And there's a lot of news about a lot of things going on. As I watch some of those things, I see manipulation, just for the sake of manipulation. And then I see how some aspects of media just don't want to show a certain thing. There's been multiple things that have come up that if you are a serious news person, regardless of your political slant, you would want to report some of those things as news. And the mainstream media just does not want to report that. But there's enough out there that some news stories are big news stories. A lot of critics, I'll do this one. Many people, including myself, have spoke about some human rights violations that are taking place in Yemen. This should concern everybody on the left and right. And what's happened in Yemen is the United States supplies Saudi Arabia with weapons. And instead of the United States getting involved in what's going on in Yemen militarily, like we have done in other places, the United States this time said, a few years now, that you got to do it. If you're going to have your own war, they have a proxy war going on in Yemen, and the Saudi Arabian military, backed by us, we are giving them arms, are fighting on the ground in Yemen against rebels that are backed by Iran. So we refer to that as a proxy war. So they're really fighting because Saudi Arabia, who's not an ally of Iran, doesn't want Iran to get the upper hand there in Yemen. Okay, so both liberals, primarily liberals, but some conservatives have questioned, including myself. There's a lot of innocent deaths going on, and there's kids being killed there. And so Saudi Arabia needs to either be more accountable, because they're the people the U.S. is supplying. And just a few days ago, I read a report where this administration looked at it and said, we might stop backing you up, Saudi Arabia, because of some of the stuff going on in the civilian population, innocent deaths and all. That should be a big thing if you were concerned about it. And many in the liberal media supposedly were also concerned about it. There was hardly a single report on it. Meaning you could report on things that have meaning, but because of the way bias works, they won't report on something like that should have been praised, because many have said we need to question whether we should support them with arms, like I just explained. That's one of a million I could give you, and I won't give you the million or the many more. So we'll end it with this little update, and pray, please, for my friends. You see my friends, see things going on. In the local scene, there was a lot of drug busts that went on, like recently. I was reading the news. There were a few homicide cases in the last few weeks that were dropped. As far as I know, they never resolved the girl who was killed on Slough Road, which is that way from where you're looking. But then there were 3 that were dropped. I think if homicide cases, meaning the people that were being accused of homicide, if those cases are legitimate, of course, you try those cases. But it's a little concerning that 3 of them were dropped like within a week period. Meaning they were pursuing cases for either manslaughter or homicide, and then they were dropped. And the DA said there wasn't enough evidence. I think we have to be careful. I think he's a good DA, Mark Gonzalez. But then when you get in that position, and you were a former defense attorney, I think you do not realize how swamped the criminal justice system is, even in our county. And then there could be a fear, either maybe investigations were not done sufficiently or whatever, and then there could be a fear where you say, it looks bad to lose one because there was another one that they might have to retry. But what it showed me was, I think the average public doesn't realize that the system here is really overloaded. It's the fault of the crimes, obviously. But, so that's something that's the one local comment I'll make. And then we just pray. The ultimate answer, for instance, the advice I gave today, the ultimate answer is, if people are desperate and they're involved in all types of stuff to make money, because they don't know how else to survive, ultimately, you never really get anywhere with that, all right? That's the advice I gave to Gabriel. Ultimately, it just, money gotten in the wrong way just makes wings and flies away. So, the advice is, do your best. God can bless it if you're doing what's right. God cannot bless it if it's not right, all right? And so we'll end with that. I pray a blessing on everybody, and you'll see all these and look back. God bless everybody.